Oh, welcome back. Moon Griffon show on the road, at least across the street from my studio, man. You throw a rock and hit me, but don't do that. Be nice. Anyway, we're here at LAGCO, and we'll be here until 11 o'clock. Arco Equipment, want to thank David Landry and the gang for sponsoring us today. And I always get a chance. Somebody always sponsors us when we get to come out here. So I've been to LAGCO. I don't know if I missed many. I think we skipped one time because of hurricane, flood. Something happened a few years ago. We didn't have one. But anyway, Attorney General Jeff Landry joined me. Jeff, how you doing? Good to see you, man.
Be here, Moon. It really is. It's great. You know, David and I grew up in the same neighborhood.
You're joking.
No.
We did a lot of St. Martinville stories, but we never included you yet.
Well, I'm glad.
But we can do that later.
Look, I worked a long time to build up credibility, Moon.
No, I appreciate you coming by. It's always good to hear from you. All right, Jeff, reading a lot about this opioid problem and drug problem and somebody told me the other day, said, you ought to ask somebody, is Medicaid cause this? Because I don't know what caused this, but there's a problem, and I'm taking Louisiana's no different.
No, they're not. In fact, it's interesting. We got some statistics out last week that said that, so prior to Medicaid expansion, the state of Louisiana, through the Medicaid program, was paying for about 500,000 opioid prescriptions. After the expansion, 12 months later, we've got 1 million prescriptions.
So what I'm hearing and reading is that I didn't know you was going to talk about it. I'm just saying what I'm reading and seeing is part of the problem.
No, I mean, look, you're right. Someone the other day asked me, well, I don't understand some of these states. Why is the opioid problem so bad in some states, not others? I mean, it really is bad across the country. This is really truly an epidemic, and it's terrible. People are losing their children, their friends.
Can I ask you a question? Because I'm not too bright, and you can help me out because you are.
Well, I don't know.
Opioid. What is this? Pills?
Well,
I'm not into the drug scene, Jeff, so I don't know. But I read about it and I go, man, what does this do to the body? What's going on with it?
Well, I mean, look, heroin is an opioid. Okay. I know.
I ain't tried that yet.
You're young enough to remember the 70s and heroin, the heroin addicts that were out there. How, the government cracked down, law enforcement, the criminal justice system tightened the boat real down.
This is the new heroin?
Well, no, actually, we're dealing with the same issue, except this time what started the epidemic was the drug manufacturers in placing opioids in a Schedule III classification.
So this is over-the-counter prescription-type drug.
It's a prescription-type drug now. Of course, they reclassified it to Schedule II, but they did that after we had already unleashed, millions of addicts around the country, restricted that drug, the pharmaceutical drug, and then they turned to heroin, fentanyl, synthetic fentanyl. It really is terrible. I mean, it is. It's costing lives. It knows the victims are across the demographic scale.
This must be very addictive like heroin.
Oh, it
Once
is.
you get on it, you can't hardly get off it.
It's very addictive. Not only is it very addictive, but I mean, the ability to rehab people, and it's just like rehabbing someone who's addicted to, say, methamphetamines. I mean, you literally, depending upon how bad you're abusing an opioid, if you went cold turkey, Moon, you could just die. So you got to bring people.
It's
a very, very terrible thing. I mean, we've been working since I got elected, trying to work to stem the tide. Many attorney generals across the country. We're involved with 41 other states in a multi-state civil investigation, getting documents, looking at the manufacturers, seeing whether the practices they did helped to start the particular epidemic and whether or not they have some culpability and responsibility. But again, let's go back to the Medicaid. I mean, you think about it. You think that these 400,000 new people in Louisiana who are on welfare now, health insurance welfare, that's what I call it, you think they all had back surgery? I mean, think about it. We doubled the number of prescriptions under Medicaid. Double. What's going on? People are gaming the system, putting those pills on the street. It's exacerbating the problem. LDH is doing absolutely nothing, to combat recipient fraud. It's something that I've been consistently.
Is this up to the governor and the staff and people to do? Who's not to blame, but who's responsible for trying to stop this? Is it you? You need to stop it? What happens?
Well, here's what we have. So the Attorney General's office has a Medicaid fraud unit. We get a grant from the federal government. You see our press releases each week. We go out there. We've got a great team. You remember last year, if you remember, I tried to expand that, and the governor didn't want. Of course, he can spend $15 billion on Medicaid and only allow us to spend $7 million on trying to combat fraud, waste, and abuse in government.
Sure.
Okay? We did a little bit of an expansion, certainly not even close to what the feds asked us to do or wanted us to do. And then now, and then at that time, I said, you know, I want to start. We would like inside of our Medicaid fraud unit to have a recipient. So our unit goes after providers. We're restricted the use of that money. The feds tell us we can only go after providers. I want to go after recipients as well. People who are gaming the system, people who are stealing from the poor, people who are hurting the program and costing taxpayers millions and millions and millions of dollars. And guess what? LDH has that program. You know how many cases they made last year?
How many?
None.
Not one?
None. Absolutely none. Now you think, listen to this, Minnesota.
How can they not follow what you said they need to do?
Well, no, you have to ask the governor.
That's what I'm saying. It's the governor.
Well, ask him. I don't know. You have to ask him. I mean,
he won't come on.
46% of
he
our
won't
budget.
come on the program, but go ahead.
But well, look, 46% of our budget is being spent on Medicaid, absorbing it out. And then I read in the paper they claim, oh, that's not state money. Yeah, that's state money. It's a 3-to-1 match.
Well, we put up a lot more money. Kennedy was on earlier and saying we were putting up about $1.5 billion under Gendo. Now it's 3.3 or 4 billion. I mean, it's a lot.
Well, look, if we're going to spend $15 billion, that means the state has to put up 5.
Good point.
You know, I mean, it's look.
Good point.
That's simple, non-common core math. Very simple. You know,
you might have fooled some people with non-common core math. No, but I understand what you're saying, but that's a big part of the budget, and this problem, I guess, is doubled.
Well, a big part of the budget, 46% move. You realize that 46% of our budget is going to a welfare program. That means that the people that are receiving it aren't paying taxes. So who's going to pay? You wonder why we ride around? We snarled in traffic. The roads are falling down, bridges are crumbling, and they talk about education, trying to give people. It doesn't work.
Well,
the math doesn't work.
It's going to be worse than that, Jeff, because as you know, they're going to come back and say, Moon, if you just pay a little bit more in income tax, and we take away your deductions or put another sales tax, in other words, hit me harder than what I'm being hit on Obamacare. Well, but I ain't got no more, guys. I done gave it all at Obamacare. It's $42,000 my premiums next year, Jeff. You know my family. You know my special needs dog. That's my premiums. I got to spend almost $20,000 out of my pocket before I can even get any of it back.
Well, right, because that's what Obamacare did.
They put me on the ground. By the way, in the Washington Post article, they called me a loser. One of the losers. I thought, man, I ain't no loser. And I thought, well, man, when you look at it that way, maybe I am.
Yeah, you're one of the victims. That's what you are. You're not a loser. You're a victim.
My problem is I go to work every day.
Right.
Maybe I don't go to work every day. Everything will work out.
But you know, Moon, here's the sad part. Look, in Minnesota and Michigan, they ran a recipient fraud program because they took the expansion. They found that 33% of their Medicaid expansion were ineligible.
Well, Jeff, that would save us on $5 billion, brother. That would save us a lot of money.
Well, of course. I mean, do the math.
$1.7 billion. I
mean, we've got 1.3, 1.4 million people on Medicaid right now, and we're spending $15 billion. I mean, do the math on that. I mean, we could go out and buy a health insurance policy under the rising cost of Obamacare for cheaper than that.
What is the? Because this was handed to. What's the drug take back boxes? What is that? What is that going? What is that?
Well, look, we're going back to the opioid epidemic. Okay, it's serious. It's affecting people. It's killing people. It's going to take a multifaceted approach. Okay, in order to stem this epidemic. So what we've been doing, let me show you. We started off. We took a bad lawsuit that we win with Pfizer Pharmaceutical that I inherited from the prior Attorney General. We settled that case for $1 million worth of naloxone, which is the drug that you can use to take someone out of an opioid-induced coma. We gave that to all our first responders. We partnered with the American Ambulance Alliance, started a website called endtheepidemicla.org. Okay? Worked, again, that's part. Saving people's lives, that's the first part. Then we recognized that one of the ways that people get addicted to opioids is experimenting. and experimenting on drugs, prescription drugs. So what did we do? We partnered with Blue Cross. Okay, this is about solutions, Moon. It ain't about raising taxes, it's about creating solutions. We partnered with Blue Cross, and we said, Blue Cross said, you know what? We want to provide a prescription drug take-back box in every parish in the state. Every parish in the state. We went to law enforcement agencies. We partnered with sheriffs right now. I think we've got 30 MOUs. We put 10 boxes out already. Look, the one up in Caddo Parish, we put the box out the day before we did the announcement. The sheriff and them didn't even notice, went to, didn't even have the stickers on it, just had prescription drug take back. The box was full in 24 hours.
Wow. Wow.
And so what we're doing is we're encouraging people to clean out their medicine cabinets. That way, children, teenagers, other adults won't go in those cabinets and experiment on drugs that you're no longer
Hell,
using.
my wife's a nurse. I don't even know where she keep all the drugs, to be honest with you.
Because she's smart. She locks them from you. You see? That?
She don't even want me taking a Tylenol.
Right.
God knows. All right. Jeff Landry, my special guest. We got to take a last break. We'll come back and wrap up the last 10 minutes with Attorney General Jeff Landry, the great state of Louisiana. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. I want to appreciate Artco Equipment for having us out here, David Langley and the gang. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Moon Griffon. Oh, welcome back. Moon Griffon Show on the road, at least across the street at the Cajun Gong. Of course, we are at LAGCO, and they're having that big event going on through tomorrow. It's not going to be open to the public. They do have one event that's open sometime tomorrow. You can go to their website and check it out, but it is going to be open to people that are in this business and want to come through and see the latest technology. I want to thank David Langley and Arco Equipment as well, once again, for sponsoring the program, and you can check them out. Let me see if I can see this, Jeff. Jeff, you're younger than me. Your eyes might be better. Let's see. David Langley. Oh, I can't see it, man. Oh, them eyes are bad. See if you can see a website on there.
A website on there?
Yeah.
Oh. No, there's not a website on this one. Let's see. Oh, right here it is. ArtcoEquipment.com.
Oh, dang, that's pretty easy. Oh, I
It's
can
on
read
the
it.
back. It's on the back, man.
Oh, look at the back, and I never look left.
You should.
Every time I look left and around the back, I see the left, and I just lose my mind.
You should look to the left. That's where the bullets are coming from.
All right, Attorney General Jeff Landry, my special guest. Well, Jeff, you know, it's interesting that you brought that stuff up, or we talked about it. I read about the opioid. I knew it was drug. I knew it was a prescription, but that was it. I didn't know how addictive.
Oh,
and what you just talked about is what they're talking about, the addictiveness of it. And then you're talking about getting people off of it. You know, anything that's addictive, you can't hardly get people off of it anyway. But this is it's not only a problem here, but it's a problem around. One of the other questions I had for you, Jeff, some stuff coming down about sanctuary cities. And, you know, I saw where, you know, John Kennedy apologized for the state of Louisiana to Jeff Sessions because of the Mitch Landry letter he wrote, which was a hateful letter. So my question is, have they gotten beyond or over the top with being a sanctuary city?
Well, the problem is that they
Landry's claiming they have, but
well,
the
no, because
says they're not.
What they did was they changed their policy right before. You remember I was scheduled and went before the U.S. House Judiciary Committee in front of Trey Gowdy last year, and to talk about New Orleans' policy, which at the time, literally, as you read it, was illegal. And of course, Mitch said, "Oh no, it's not illegal." And 72 hours before we were scheduled to testify, they changed it. Okay.
I wonder why.
But the problem is that as Jeff Sessions and them are reading the policy, it still prohibits officers, okay, from asking those questions.
The federal guys?
Right. No. The state, the NOPD, from asking those particular questions.
Wow. Now, what questions are they, Jeff? How hard are they?
They're
Are you legal?
Yeah, well, first of all, do you have a driver's license? Why don't you have a driver's license? Do you have a birth certificate?
One of them tough questions.
They tough. They ask them to me and you. That's why, look, that's my big thing with sanctuary cities. They confer more rights on people who have broken the law to get into this country than me and you have, than your listeners have out there. I mean, think about that. If I told you 10 years that people that came into this country illegally have more rights than the people who have been living here, legal citizens.
You know, Jeff, when I get stopped, and God knows I've been stopped enough by law enforcement through the years, I got the tickets to prove it. But they're going to say, can I see your driver's license? Can I see your insurance? They may ask me a couple questions like, do you have a gun in the car? No, officer, most of the time I do. So I tell them, yeah, but what you see what I'm saying? They're asking me questions. I'm a citizen. By the way, here's my driver's license. Here's my insurance. Yes, sir. I got out one time, and the officer, some like to sit there, some like for you to get out. So a lot of times I get out the car. If he says, "Will you get back in the car?" I'm getting back in the car. If I get out of the car and he says, "Hey, I come approach the back," I go to the back of the car. Driver's license I'm gonna have in my hand, and I'm gonna have my insurance. But they will ask me, "Do you have a gun in the car?" Well, one time I walked up, I said, "Look, I was coming from Monroe to down here, and I said I got a .357 sitting on the front seat." And he said, "Okay, thanks for telling me."
Yeah.
That was it. And he did the thing, and he wrote a ticket, and I paid my ticket. I didn't get it fixed, Jeff. I paid my ticket. But my point being is, I told the officer before he asked, hey, by the way, I got a 357 sitting on the truck. I tell people all the time, if I miss you, that may be fine, but I might scare you to death.
Well, you know, Moon, the sad part is we just sent a letter. I sent a letter to Mitch last week. This is easy to fix. This is very simple. Okay, we're not asking the city of New Orleans to turn into the Immigrations and Customs Department. We're just asking them to cooperate, to help in the security of the citizens of the state of New York. It's a public safety issue.
Yeah.
I mean, the crime over there is completely out of control. Completely. I mean, why wouldn't they do that? I mean, I don't know.
Jeff,
but Sessions and them are feeling. I think they're fixing to pull the funding. I think you're going to see
Well, you
in this
pull the
next.
funding, you're going to see Mitch Landry jumping up and down.
Oh.
And there won't even be no water in the streets. He'll be jumping up and down.
Well, there might be water because he can't run the pumps.
Come to think of it, if somebody pees in the commode and it overflows, New Orleans might have a problem because of Mitch Landry.
Good.
Matter of fact, I saw the other day that Mitch Landry was going to be working on something else. And I said,
Was it a
been
pump?
there 8 years. He didn't fix the pumps, crime problem, the drug problem, the murder problem, the job creation problem, the economic development problem. I said, he's trying to work on something else. He's out of there in a few months.
Well, I mean, and think of the people that are being affected in the city of New Orleans. These are all the people who he claims are his constituents. These are all the people who think that his policies are going to help them. It's terrible. It's the same policies that are killing people in the city of New Orleans. Absolutely. Look, and let me tell you something. We talk about the drug problem, this opioid problem. Again, when people go into the city of New Orleans, they engage in a drug trade, okay? When people buy drugs in the city of New Orleans illegally, they're contributing to the violence that's in that city. It's like a carousel, Moon. I mean, it is. It's a sad deal. I think Jeff Sessions and them are going to pull that funding from him if they don't. I suspect that when the heat gets hot enough, they'll change the policy like they did the last time.
But if they pull, have they pulled any funding yet, or are we just in the process of doing all investigative work?
It's a process.
Okay.
I think that Sessions and them are slowly changing the process for the law enforcement grants that the Department of Justice gives. I think the Department of Justice gives a total like $12 billion a year out to various law enforcement agencies across the country. And so they're changing the language in the contractual arrangement that they make with law enforcement agencies to make sure that those people – I mean,
is that the funding they will pull?
That is the funding.
Or is it all federal funding?
No, that is the funding.
Not all federal funding.
No, it's not all. No, it's not all. It's not all. This is the funding that we use to try to keep New Orleans safe. These are the ones that law enforcement officers rely on.
But if a mayor like Landry and them are not going to enforce the laws that are our immigration laws, what do? You can't do anything but hurt them in the pocket.
That's exactly right. And, of course, you know, the Attorney General from California is suing the Trump administration saying, you can't cut our funding off like that. That's arbitrary. And I'm like, wait a minute. The federal government has a responsibility for immigration in this country. We recognize that. States are a partner with the federal government. We're supposed to be partnering together, okay? And the fact that
44% of California don't even speak English. You saw that, and I went, wow.
Sounds like they need some federal funding, sending some English teachers out there. Huh?
But I'm just saying that it's federal funding, and normally with federal money come guidelines.
No, exactly.
That's why I don't want much federal funding, but it becomes guidelines.
Well, I mean, look, the federal government highly regulates radio. You got to follow their guidelines, right?
I'm hoping Trump is still going to keep deregulating this part of the business. He did something the other day that helped that you do not have a physical office in your particular deal. So he's going to do some stuff to deregulate. He's deregulating a lot of stuff that we need.
That's absolutely right. Doing a great job.
Jeff, it's always a pleasure, man. You know you're welcome anytime.
Thank you, Moon.
Love to have you back. Appreciate all your info. And once again, I want to thank Artco Equipment, David Landry. Thank y'all so much. God bless.